Good morning. My name is Kenny Tan. Welcome to the Real Biz Academy show, aka Centermac Weekly Sales Training. This morning, I'm very excited to announce many new things that are going on within Centermac. First of all, I got a new right eye. I can see laser focus now. I don't need any glasses when I drive, when I read stuff. No more blurry pictures. Everything is laser focused now. Also new, we just hired two more VAs, so we will become 24/7 soon. If not, by I think we should be ready by January 1st, 2022. That's when become a brand new industry leading virtual brokerage. Now they're going to be able to see the power of being a virtual brokerage. Why do you want to make agent subsidize huge office expense when you can use the same amount of money and provide more benefit to the agents, such as the brand new contract that I just signed with wiwl. You're going to be able to see the power of being able to use artificial intelligence to generate and culture and cultivate uh, leads, leads that can be shared with all Centermac agents. We're going to start with the full-time and active agents. They're going to be the people that I reach out to first. And then eventually, if more people decide that they wanted to be more active in real estate, then we can start sharing leads with them. If you're one of those full-time active agents, you want to participate in the new program, you got to let me know. Okay, I'm not a very good person when it comes to mind reading, so I don't read minds very well. Okay, today, let's see what else is new. Okay, a bunch of new stuff. Okay, new agents. Oh yeah, we got three new agents just joined us. I'm sure you saw the countdown video. We got Emma Lu and Wei Feng Zhang and Zhou Ping. These are the three new agents that just joined us. I think from now onwards, you're going to see more and more new agents joining us. Not everybody believe in our new model, but hopefully there's enough people believing in the new model that we can make use of it and propel and become a very successful brokerage. I'm really looking forward to it. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's four topics. The four topics I'm going to talk to you about, those topics that excite me a lot. First one having to do with, I'm so excited, I forgot what the first one is. Okay, well, we'll see what the first one is. But the second one is how to win friends and influence people. It's called the Socratic method. Socrates is one of the most well-known philosopher, and he's the one that came up with this particular method of influencing people and persuading people. I'm sharing with you three different persuading techniques. And the third one we're going to cover is called the pacing and leading. That's also another way to persuade people. It is an NLP technique. If you don't know what NLP is, it's a technique that is based on psychology. And we're also going to be talking about 55 years and older community. I think it's good to know about it because I think as the population ages, more and more potential buyers are going to be for the 55 plus community. I'm a 55 plus. I'm sure many of you in the audience are 55 plus. So we're going to be talking about the federal laws and the state laws that govern 55 plus and 62 plus. Okay, now let's go to my slide so I can recall what is the first topic I'm going to be sharing with you. Okay, now I remember. The first one I'm going to be talking about is How to negotiate a price reduction with the seller for your listing if your listing doesn't sell. I'm sure if you've done enough listings, you've been through this before. Who has not made a mistake in coming up with the right listing price and end up losing that listing because seller was so frustrated at us in the end, or the listing just becomes an expired listing? Why do you want to wait until that happens? You got to be more proactive. You got to talk to your seller early. Okay, I'll give you a good example. Recently, Ying Mei and Carrie had a listing in Oakland that didn't sell in this hot market for 21 days. You know, in this hot market, if it doesn't sell for 21 days, there's cause for concern. I'm glad they came to me for help because one of the things I suggested to them was to reduce the price. Not long after we reduced the price by 20,000, not only did they get their first offer, they got multiple offers. Okay, I'm sure some of you can share similar experience about that. So if you want to do price reduction, you got to talk to your seller early. Now, what are you going to say to your seller is what we're going to talk about. What are some of the techniques you can use in convincing the seller to reduce the price? See, whenever there is a need to have a price reduction, I'm sure the big question is whose fault is it? Or is it really important? Whose fault is it? Is it the seller's fault? Or is it the agent's fault who wasn't strong enough? I've been the lucky recipient of expired listing or cancel listing because the previous agent wasn't strong enough. You know what? I was one of those agents who were not strong enough. Sometimes we wanted a listing so badly, we actually gave him to the seller. We were not strong enough to stand up for ourselves and be prepared to walk away from a listing opportunity because we wanted that listing so badly. Well, if you want a listing badly, let me turn my phone off. Sorry about that. So, if you want a listing badly, then be prepared to have an early price reduction with your seller if the listing doesn't sell. Okay. Now, uh, I'm a big fan of Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry as well, and they are both equally good as coaches. I've never had coaches before, but I do follow some of their teachings, and I want to share with you a couple of scripts by two of these industry leading experts in real estate coaching. I think either way you pick, they are going to be good approaches depending on your personality style. If you are more business like, if you are the type of person who does not want to apologize, I think the Tom Ferry approach might be better. Now, let's see what the Tom Ferry approach is. I have a simple, a very straightforward, no beating around the bush script by Tom Ferry. And then there's one that is more apologetic. The Tom Ferry one is more business-like. The Mike Ferry one is a combination of business and some apology built in it. When we talk to our seller about price reduction, remember one of the previous rules for how to win friends and influence people is to, when you make a mistake, admit it early and emphatically. Yeah, it depends on how you say it though. You got to be sincere when you apologize, right? So that's built into Mike Ferry's script. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the Tom Ferry script, which is a very easy script to use. It's more of a business decision approach. And this is what the script says. It says, based on the market, now it's the agent talking to the seller right now. Based on the market, the agent's feedback, and the lack of buyer's response, I'm going to recommend we amend the price. Notice he did not use the word reduce. You see, one of the techniques or strategies of talking to your prospect and or your clients is to avoid using words that have negative connotation, because the word reduce means they're getting less money. So you want to avoid using the word reduce as much as possible. I think that I like this one better than having to use the word reduction or reduce. So think about this one next time you need to talk to your seller about price reduction. Now, my favorite script, which is a price mistake approach. Notice it doesn't say it's agent's mistake or the seller's mistake. I think the best way to put it, it would be a mutual mistake, right? Well, one is the agent wasn't strong enough. Another is the seller asking for what this property can be sold for. Okay, so it's but the agent is putting on himself that he's the one that who's strong, who's not strong enough. It says it's not strong enough, which means that he's putting partially blame on the seller, but it's done in a nice way so the seller doesn't feel offended. All right, let's go look at the script and see what the script says. Okay, here's the script. Now, this is the price reduction script. Okay, let me go ahead and see if I can enlarge this one. Yeah, I can. Great. Now, it reads like this. Right off the bat, you apologize. I made a terrible mistake when I listed your home. So it is putting the blame on the agent. It doesn't say, well, seller, you shouldn't have asked for too much money when I met you to sign the listing. That's no good. Remember, you will be violating one of the rules of how to win friends and influence people if you put the other person on the defensive right off the bat. Okay, now when I talk about the Socratic approach, you know exactly what I mean. So right off the bat, the agent put the blame on himself. And the way you say it, it's got to be sincere. You honestly believe that you made a mistake. How do you do that? You got to practice your tonality. Tonality means everything. If I'm the one using the script, I have to practice the script. I can come up with the right tonality to the script that I'm using so that the other person can feel my sincerity. Okay. Remember, one of the rules is if you make a mistake, admit your mistake quickly and emphatically. Quickly means what? You say it up front. Okay. And then it's followed by, you see the dot, dot, dot? After you say it, pause for a couple of seconds and then you say, can I explain? Okay, say it with a sort of a expression, sort of like, okay, you know what? I'm so sorry. I messed up. I made a mistake when I signed the listing. And then it says, when I listed your home, I wasn't strong enough on the price. Yeah. Now, this particular statement is putting the seller partially at fault for why the property wasn't selling, because it's implying that the seller was the one that started with the push for a higher price. When we go for a listing appointment, the better strategy is not to overinflate the recommended listing price. If anything, you want to make it's okay to initially make the seller feel uncomfortable or feel offended because you recommended a price that is lower than what they expected. And then, from there, hopefully you can use your personal power to influence this person so that he or she will still give you an opportunity to justify your recommended price. And then for the stronger agents that are very successful, they usually can stand up to the recommended price and they are prepared to walk away from that listing if the seller is insisting on a listing price that is unreasonable. You see, you got two options. You can either walk away from this one and look for the next seller who is more reasonable on his price, or you got no better opportunities. All right, you know what? You take it with a chance that you may have to have this conversation with your seller in the future. You can do that. Nothing wrong with that, especially with the newer agents who don't have a lot of opportunities. And then dot means you pause, and then you say so dot. I wrote down 4 solutions dot. Okay, dot. Okay, okay is with a upswing tone. Okay. The first solution is reduce the price tonight. Now, I would go ahead and change the word reduce. Reduce is such a negative word. Don't use reduce. I would change it to amend the price tonight. Okay. Instead of say by whatever percentage, because when you say by whatever percentage, it might mean you might create some thoughts in the seller's head that, hey, he's getting less. Of course, instead of saying reduce, you change it to amend the price tonight. Instead of say buy whatever percentage, you can say amend the price tonight to whatever the price is that you're recommending. Now, when we say amend the price to whatever the price, do it in a more business-like approach, okay? And then, depending on the seller's reaction, okay, you will say great, or the seller say no way. Okay, now if the seller may say no way, or the seller may give you that displeasure look, okay. Now the word great is if the seller nods his head agree with you, of course. That's called pacing and leading. That's another thing that we'll be talking about today. And the second solution that is proposed is add an additional 1 to 2% commission for the selling agent. To be honest with you, I don't like the second proposed solution because, especially in this market, adding one, even in the market we were in a few years ago, and Michael and I, when we were driving around, taking listings all over California, I've signed 7% listing, and still the property did not sell. That's not the issue, though. Most of the time, when a property doesn't sell, the commission that is offered to the agent is not the issue, and here's the reason why. The reason is agent does not make the decision on whether to buy a property or not to buy the property. It's the buyers. And most agents, I would say, would not make a decision about whether to take a buyer to see a certain homes based on the commission that is offered. To be honest with you, the majority of the agents don't make decision based on that. They want to take their buyers to see listings that they know is going to give them the best chance of landing a deal. Okay, if you have a real bad listing, ugly looking property that doesn't show well, that all sorts of crazy colors on the wall, uh, there's a carpet that looks like it's 15 years old, no matter how much commission you offered in your MLS, it's not going to change the outcome. So if I were to use this script, I would delete number 2. That is not an option at all. Okay. Now, and then number 3 says, extend the listing agreement to its original term. I don't exactly know what it means. I think this may mean that, okay, give me a long, oh, I see what they're saying there. Let's say you signed a 3 months listing, it didn't sell. You're asking the seller to extend the listing agreement, to make it expire at a later date without changing the commission split, and also without changing the listing price that is on the agreement. To be honest with you, I would not make the third one because my experience is after the property hasn't sold for a long time, extending it is not going to change the outcome most of the time. It will simply prolong the agony for both the agent as well as the seller. I wouldn't even go there. So 2 and 3 are usually, I will not go there. Number 4, I'll have to give you back the listing. I know this is tough which of the four is better for you? For in my case, it will be which of the two is a better for you option. Okay, because if the listing doesn't sell, and if the seller is not reasonable, seller will not change his decision on the price. I'm prepared to give it back and walk away and spend my time on something else. See, that's why when you take an overpriced listing, the risk is that you would have spent a lot of time and money on it, and then you still end up with nothing. So, uh, I think the solution to that is create more opportunities for yourself so you can be stronger when you go see the seller for listing presentation. And then the second part, it says, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, based on my knowledge, it seems you are still the highest bidder for your home. We need to go ahead, instead of saying and reduce the price, say we need to go ahead and amend the price. Instead of saying buy whatever amount, we just say we need to go ahead and amend the price to whatever amount. And then it's emphasized as tonight. So the seller, you are actually forcing or putting pressure on the seller to make a decision tonight. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't want to give your seller too much time to think because decisions are often made based on emotions. Okay, so I would keep number two, but I will modify it as recommended. And then number three, it says here, okay, number three is if you're doing it on the phone as opposed to doing it in person. Now, one and two is better done in person. If you want a price reduction, it's usually more effective if you do it in person. Now, if the seller is overseas, of course, you don't have a choice. If you have like an iPhone, at least you'll be able to FaceTime that person. It's always better to be able to look at the person in the eyes when you're talking to them, you know. So number three is when you're not able to meet in person. You're making your weekly update. It says, "Hi, I'm calling in with your weekly update. In the last 7 days, we've had so many showings and so many offers. As we discussed, it's time to don't say reduce the price, say amend the price, so we can create some activity and receive some showings." Okay. Now this is if you're doing a routine weekly update. Very few agents, including myself, are not good at doing weekly update. If you can do weekly update with your seller, uh, I think you have a better chance of getting the seller to agree to reduce price when it's time to reduce price because the seller can see the kind of effort that you put in selling the property. Number four, which is also a good script to use because you want to gauge the seller motivation at that point. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 meaning we must move now, okay? And 1 meaning we'll move only if we get our price. Okay, then where would you rate yourself in terms of your motivation to sell this home? Now, if you're getting like a 7 and above, it might be worth continuing with the relationship. If you're getting like a 1, 2, 3, 4, or less than 5, you should start thinking about thanking the seller for the opportunity and move on to the next opportunity. Okay. All right, let's go on and look at my next slide. So hopefully, this will be helpful to you on your next situation. Now, the next one I'm going to talk to you about is how to win friends and influence people. Rule number 14, the secrets of Socrates. Get the other person saying yes, yes, immediately. You don't want to start a conversation if you are trying to persuade somebody to do something by getting consecutive no answers, which will be total disaster. You want to improve your chances of success by showing or getting the person to nod his head and say yes to a couple of questions that you're going to ask them. The reason is you begin, no, you want to begin by emphasizing and keep on emphasizing the things on which you and the other side agree on in any kind of negotiation or any kind of persuasion situation. Now, just to give you an example, who doesn't want to save money, right? So I know sometimes we get this telemarketer that calls us, and of course, sometimes right away we know they're telemarketer. No matter what they say to us, we will not pay attention. We'll just want to hang up. But still, one of the strategies that they use, one of the methods that they use is called the Socratic method. Uh, time save money is always something that most people will nod their head and agree on. Okay, save time, save money. Okay, you can't go wrong with this. These two questions or these two thoughts. See, how do you get a seller to pay you the 6% commission or the 7% commission? You have to have a strong value proposition when you go see the seller. It has to be something that only you or only a small group of people can offer them. That proves to be such a high value that uh, they have to agree with you. That going with you, they can quickly solve their problem. Okay, so think about what you need to say or ask them in order to get the two yeses that you need in any kind of presentation situation. Keep emphasizing that you're both striving for the same end. Your difference is only one of methods and not of purpose. A no response is the most difficult handicap to overcome. See, you want to stay away from asking questions that, I mean, if you go talk to a seller, first thing you ask is you ask the seller, would you pay a 7% commission? I'll tell you, that is a failure right off the bat, okay? Because you are going against the seller's desire to pay more money. So that is not a good question to ask. Okay, so just avoid that situation. Uh, you got to avoid those kind of questions. I'll give you two examples. That's in the book on how to win friends and influence people. Sometimes you want to go to the bank and open an account. The bank teller or the bank customer service, sometimes they will ask the customer to fill out certain forms. Sometimes there may be customers that are resistant to take the time to fill out certain forms. I'm pretty sure if you're a loan officer, sometimes you may have certain resistance about borrowers right off the bat wanting or willing to upload to your Google Drive about their tax return or W 2. Now, you got to know how to say certain things to them so that they are more than happy to share those information to you. Okay? For example, you have to tell them about the benefits of doing that. It's very inconvenient. You have to do it in such a way that make them realize you're asking for the information not for your own sake, even though it is really for your own sake and that's for their own sake, but you have to put it in a way that it is for their customer's sake. Okay. Now the example I'm giving about bank teller. So this guy walks up to the bank teller, and the bank teller say, "Okay, if you like to open an account, you will need to fill out a form." Now, had the bank teller said that if you don't fill out this form, I'm sorry, I can't open your account for you. Versus, uh, would you like me to explain to you why we need you to fill out this form? See, the important thing about filling out this form is that if in the future you should pass away, would you want any sort of delay or difficulty for your heirs to get your money? I'm sure you don't want that, right? Do you? And they would agree with you. They don't want that. So that is like the first yes that you get. Of course, you ask something else that is going to give you another yes response. Okay, when you get two yeses in a row, that's what you want. Now, the second example is sometimes for example, if I don't, if I I don't do, I don't offer certain type of service or certain type of product. Of course, you can write out the best, say, hey, I don't sell this thing, or I don't offer this service. Instead of doing that, you may be able to persuade the prospect of opting for something that you do offer. You see, that's the whole point. So now this example in the book is talking about this person wanting to go for bow hunting and needs to uh, is looking for bows to rent. The bows where they can shoot the animals down. And this particular company, they used to rent bows. Now they no longer rent bows. So had the customer service told the prospective customer that they don't rent bows, right off the bat, probably the customer would have walked away. Oh, you don't? Okay, thank you very much for your time. Now, instead of doing that, instead of saying no, so what this person did was he said to this person, he asked a couple of questions that caused this person to begin to trust him, and also to begin to accept the fact that buying a bow actually is better as opposed to renting a bow. Well, I'm sure we have a situation like that before. If you know how to handle it better, we can actually convert a non-sales situation into a sales situation. So this particular customer service said, well, I'm sure you have rented a boat before. Now, first thing he asks is, have you rented a boat before? And this guy probably say yes. And if he say yes, of course, that's risky to ask. Instead of asking this guy, have you rented boats before? You say, you know, if you have a choice of picking an option that's going to save you money versus one that is not, would you rather be saving money than not saving money? And the guy's probably going to agree that he wants to save money. And then he's going to ask him, and then he asks this person, now, I'm sure you rented boats before. How much did you pay for boats in the past? And the guy is saying, okay, I paid this much and that much. And do you agree that, renting boats actually costs you more money than owning a boat or something like that? Okay, similar to that. I'm not good in asking this question because I don't sell boats. But the whole point is that offer them a solution that actually makes sense to them, and in a conversation ask a couple of questions that give you consecutive yeses as opposed to a no. Okay, that's what separates a good salesperson versus a not so good salesperson. All right, now let's talk about federal and state laws on 55 plus communities. Federal and state law on 55 plus communities. Okay. You know, you need to know what are the requirements, because I'm sure you're going to get asked. If you're trying to promote 55 plus homes, whether they are single family residence, condominium, or mobile home parks, the same rules would apply with some variation. The federal laws and the state laws are a little bit different, so I want to just kind of over the federal and the state. The federal law is known as the Housing for Older Persons Act of 1995. Now, federal law says at least 80% must be at least one occupant that is 55 plus. However, the law does allow the CCNR to be more strict by allowing the CCNR to require 100%. So the flexibility tends to favor stricter rule than non-strict rule. So if the CCNR decides that 80% good enough, then it is good enough. If the CCNR says it's got to be 100%, then it is 100%. Now, the second requirement under this particular law is that the HOA must publish and follow procedures that demonstrate intent to provide 55 plus housing. How do they do that? They do that by establishing age verification procedures to ensure compliance. So they need to check the person's ID, for example, to make sure that requirement is met. That is the federal requirement. Now, third thing is talking about, I'm missing an A here on California. I apologize for that. So California's Unruh Act, and for those of you who studied real estate before, you know what Unruh Act is. It's an anti-housing discrimination law in California. This particular law actually carves out an exception in favor of age discrimination, in favor of providing more housing or better housing for older people. 55 plus is not that old, okay? Mind you, a few people here are over 55, myself included. There are two categories in the state law. You got the 55 plus and the 62 plus, whereas on the federal, there's only a 55 plus. Under California's Unruh Act, at least one occupant must meet the age requirement. Everybody else falls into other requirements. So the big difference between the federal and the state is that for the federal, as long as there's one person over the 55 or older, then the rest of the people that don't have to meet the age requirements. However, the difference between federal and state is that in federal, we don't have the 62 plus. We only have the 55 plus. And the state has other requirements considering the cohabitants or co-occupants. All the others must be qualified permanent residents. So stricter requirements in contrast to the federal law. California's Unruh Act, qualified permanent resident defined. Spouse of any age. If it's a spouse, for example, it's an older person, he has a younger spouse. It doesn't matter as long as this person is a spouse, it doesn't matter how old this person is. So for other people, if it's a spouse, any age is fine. Now, if this person is a provider of physical and economic support, such as a child or somebody who provide physical and economic support, not necessarily health care, but for example, this person is there to help feed this person food and to help him get in and out of bed, to help him shower. This person can be of any age. And then the third category that can be of any age is the healthcare provider. If this person is a live-in healthcare provider, it can be of any age. I've had clients who actually benefited from being able to live in the same 55 plus or even 62 plus community to take care of the mother. Okay. Everybody else who don't fall within these three categories above, they must be at least 45 years of age. Okay, so those are all the requirements for the 55 plus federal and state law. Now let's look at the last few slides. Lastly, I'm going to talk, actually there's more. It says here, what happens if the 55 plus or 62 plus has died or is hospitalized or divorced from the underage spouse? Now, if the 55 plus or 62 plus died while the rest of the qualified permanent residents were still living in the 55 plus or 65 plus community, they would not lose their right to continue to live there. So, three situations, in any of these three situations, whether the 55 plus or 65 plus has died or hospitalized or divorced, okay, then if it's divorced, for example, husband and wife, Husband decides to divorce the wife, or wife decides to divorce the husband, and the husband or the person who is 55 plus or 62 plus winds up leaving the 55 plus community, the remaining divorcee can continue to live there. Okay. Now it says here previously qualified permanent resident, that should be DENT, can continue to reside in the same community. Now let's move on to pacing and leading. For those of you that are new to pacing and leading, oh, there's more. Sorry. Okay, there's more. 55 plus mobile home parks. I forgot about it. Now, if it's a mobile home park, the current federal law allows for mobile home park, they may allow up to 20% non-55 plus occupants. They may also require 100% 55 plus. HOA can set whatever rules they want as long as 80% or more must meet 55 plus rule. And that's totally up to the CCNR, the way the CCNR is written. Okay. All right, let's see. Maria has a question. I hope I can answer it. Maria's question is, you guys can't see in the screen, but I'll read it for you. It says, what if the buyer of the 55 plus property is below 55 years old, but can she live in that community with her boyfriend, 55 plus person? Well, under the federal law, there is no need for any family relationship. It can be a total stranger under the federal law. So if you look at the federal law again, it says here at least 80%, but this is talking about 80% of the, must be 80% of the residents of the homes in the community must be at least one person in the household that is 55 plus. And there's no other requirement. So I think if you have a husband and wife situation, the federal law allows it. Unfortunately, state law may not allow it though, because under the state law, these are the person who doesn't have a spousal relationship. It's just a boyfriend, girlfriend. These are the person needs to meet the 45 years of age requirement. Yeah, the person 55 plus is not going to be required to be on title. It just need to be an occupant. No law says they have to be on title. They just need to be an occupant. I think that's what the law says, unless I read it wrong. There's no mention of title, so just as long as this person is an occupant, it's fine. That's my interpretation. Okay, last topic of the day: how to persuade anybody, persuade anyone using the pacing and leading technique. What is pacing and leading? I use that when I go for a listing presentation or when I'm doing prospecting calls. It's a neuro-linguistic programming (NLP) technique. Now, those of you who are Tony Robbins fan, you heard Tony Robbins talk about NLP a lot. It's a technique that was developed by Bentler and Grinder, two psychologists in the 1970s. Pacing and leading technique is also used by a pretty well-known salesperson by the name of Jordan Belfort. He was thrown into jail for some, I think, for some federal law violation, but he's a good teacher on pacing and leading. And I'm sure he used quite a bit of NLP technique. He always talk about NLP pacing and leading technique being a very dangerous weapon because you can put a person in open-eye trances, making them do things they otherwise would not do. I can't tell you. I used it to my success a couple of times. It doesn't work on everybody, but it could improve your chances of getting the listing signed, or even just getting your listing appointments. First, you have to get your listing appointment, then you have to get your listing signed. Okay. Now, a few years ago, I signed a listing in uh, Napa. Who in the world am I to go all the way to Napa to sign listing? I'm a total stranger there. Never sold or never bought any property from on behalf of any of my clients. No experience whatsoever. How in the world was I able to get a listing there? Well, the NLP technique, of course, uh, I will share with you because the whole time I was using part of it. Okay, uh, of course, with the right script. Or it's a two-steps process. Step number one, use of experientially verify situation to arouse a certain emotion, and that's called pacing. And step number two is a combined use of negative and positive emotions to lead them into taking actions you want them to take. It's called leading. You can do it. You can practice it on your kids. Okay, uh, you know. But I want to share with you my favorite script where this particular technique is used. When you use the script, you don't necessarily think about pacing and leading. But once you begin to learn about pacing and leading, you start going like, wow, okay, that's a script I want to use. Okay, let's see, where am I? On my slide. Okay, next slide. This one here. I want to show you this one. Now, this is expired script though. In here, you will see a part where the script starts pacing the prospect. Usually, you pace them by reminding them, by getting them to start thinking about what a bad experience they had. Okay, by asking the right question. You don't start bad mouthing the other agent. No, that's a poor way to sell it, to make a sale to the expired. You do it in a subtle way. I mean, you ask questions, for example, some of these questions are actually rhetorical. Okay, and this is expired, right? Okay, now the expired there, it says there's a little bit of pacing too, because now all of this has NLP built in it. And number one, they ask, when do you plan on interviewing the right person for the job of selling your home? Now, why is this has NLP built in it? Because of the use of the words the right agent. What does this imply? This implies that the last agent was the wrong agent. You're not saying, you're not directly saying he had a bad agent, but indirectly you're saying, I'm the right agent, hire me, right? So, and then of course, you're going to get some negative reaction sometimes. Sometimes they'll say, forget it, I don't want to talk to another agent anymore. Okay. Now, even if they say, forget it, I don't want to talk to you. You're an agent, right? Forget it. Don't call me again. Okay. Don't hang up. If you hang up, you lose an opportunity, right? So you move on to the next question. And then if you start saying, some negative thing, you just laugh about it. Okay. You just go, ha, ha, ha. Oh, really? Okay. Then you move on to the next question. Next question is, if you sold this home, where would you go next? Now, this is setting up for pacing and leading as well, because you start making him think about, oh my God, I should have been there. Or I could have been there months ago. Now I'm stuck with this property I can't sell. So they're setting up some emotion there. Okay. Of course. And then if the guy is cooperative, he tells you where he's going next. Okay, now great, you're having a conversation going. Then you can say, oh, how? You say, where are you going next? You say, LA. Oh, that's exciting. And then third question, notice how it's asked, how soon do you have to be there? The key is the word soon. He's not there soon enough. Okay, you reminded him that he's not there soon enough, and he started using his own word to express his emotion. He started saying, already. You go like, ouch. That is a leading expression. You're leading him toward where you want him to go, because you want him to go ahead and give you a chance to have that appointment. So you go like, ouch. 4, What do you think stopped your home from selling? That's another NLP technique, because the key is stopped. The home wasn't selling. So you are arousing a certain emotion in him. What do you think is stopping your home? What do you think stopped your home from selling? Number five, how did you happen to pick the last agent you listed with? You reminded him about the mistake that he made on the last agent. That is pacing him there. Okay. And then it says a referral. You simply react positively. You say, oh, great. You say referral, you say great, right? You're not necessarily agreeing that he made a mistake, or you're not necessarily disagreeing that he made a mistake. You're simply saying that great means that referral is one way to find agents. Okay, that's great. What did that agent do that you like best? That is a rhetorical question. And you ask this question to evoke a certain emotion. Now look at how intense the answer was. Nothing. The agent did absolutely nothing. Okay, now the emotion is building. So you go like, ouch again, ouch again. Okay. And then number seven, what do you feel they should have done? You keep building up that emotion. Okay. Sold my house. Really? Okay. Now that is a more an expression of empathy. Okay. Gotta show some empathy there. When you say really, you have to say it with some empathy, using the right tonality to it. You can't be too mechanical when you talk to your seller or prospective seller. Number eight is talking about what will you expect from the next agent you choose. Now you're pacing him, because you're making him to start thinking about hiring the next agent. So that's pacing right there. Okay. And then sell my house. Still more emotion there. Sell my house. Okay. And then you say terrific. Okay, that's leading, because you're showing him that you're excited about the opportunity. Number nine, you're talking about, have you already chosen an agent to work with? Number nine really doesn't have much pacing or leading to it, but that is just to confirm that he doesn't have an agent at the moment. Because if he's already chosen an agent, why are you wasting your time with him? I think it's just to help you decide if this is a person you want to continue to work on. If the answer is no, oh, wonderful. Okay, you got to start showing your enthusiasm and excitement when you hear that answer. Okay. I would like to apply for the job of selling your home. Are you familiar with the techniques I use to sell homes? Of course. This one, the answer is no. Okay, because he doesn't know you. So this is more of a rhetorical question, but it's just to set up an invitation to meet with him in person. And then he said no. And then you say, oh, you're kidding. Okay. And then number 11, what would be the best time to show you, Monday or Tuesday? Okay, this is all the way toward the end of leading. That's where you want to go. Okay. And then now when you say that, what would be the best time to show you? Another sales technique is that don't leave it open. Give him two choices. The best is always give him two choices, Monday or Tuesday. If either Monday or Tuesday don't work, you go ahead and he will tell you what other dates are available. Okay, but you got to give him two options. All right, let's see what else I got here. Apparently, I did not finish up the text. Sorry about that. There's actually more, but just by way of illustrating how a good script make use of pacing and leading to get you the appointment if you know how to use it. Okay, but you got to know how to use the script, and you got to practice your script such that all these words are going to come out of your mouth naturally. You don't even have to think about it. The minute you hesitate, you're not persuasive. You got to practice and memorize the script inside and out. Okay, every day. I haven't used this script for a long time. If you ask me to do it again, I will hesitate. So I have to go back and memorize it. Okay, that's thank you so much for attending today's training. I covered it in good time, by the way. It's 12 o'clock exactly. Okay. All right. See you guys next Tuesday for another edition of Northern California Update. Have a wonderful weekend.